Could the West and could the United States be shooting itself in the foot? Because India today put that question on Rupee-Ruble trade to President Putin. That full interview in 23 minutes from now, but I want you to listen into an excerpt. I'll bring in Ambassador Trigunayat and my guests once again on that, but listen into President Putin on the Rupee-Ruble trade.
The biggest thing when you have these blocks is how do you make it economically viable? Are we looking at alternative payment systems? Is there going to be a BRICS currency? Or are we looking at alternative payments in terms of national currencies? Rupee-Ruble.
Moving towards de-dollarization, basically.
Well, you know, there is no need for haste. And if there is no hurry, then you will avoid many grave mistakes. Let's have a look at Europe. They created the Euro system and they involved in that Eurozone several countries that were economically unprepared for a single currency. Hence, problems with regulating a number of issues related to social system. You know, you cannot simply work with the national currency because there is one single currency, hence problems with the budget. We do not have this goal of building a single currency in BRICS at this stage and point. This has to be done very carefully, prudently.
And we need to use national currencies. We need to use wider the capacity of the new development bank of BRICS. For example, we've proposed to create a new investment platform that would use electronic payments with a minimum capital of $100 billion to begin with, in order to create conditions for joint investment, both in our economy and the economies of the developing global south.
So 20 minutes to go for that India Today world exclusive interview with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. He's right now in 7 Lok Kalyan Marg having dinner with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This interview was shot just before he left Moscow at the Kremlin. So 20 minutes to go for that interview. Ambassador Trigunayat, de-dollarization doesn't appear to be happening in a hurry. Is that the impression you also get from this conversation that India Today had with President Putin? But Rupee-Ruble trade, you know, the Mir system and India's Rupee system, do you see that, that deal happening, forward movement there?
Well, as you know, that nearly 85 to 90% of our trade with Russia is being settled through national currencies, and rest through UAE and other mechanisms. And we have mastered this since the Soviet times, if you remember, the Russia Rupee-Ruble trade. Yes. So that is a mechanism that works, and that is being worked upon. And now that we have the Bank of Russia opening their office in Delhi, I think this will be smoothed out even further. Now, as you know, that the dollar is essentially some kind of a sovereign identity of the United States. So therefore, they feel that anything that is dented is direct impact on their sovereignty. And that's why the de-dollarization is really a red rag for the Americans, especially for President Trump. But the fact remains is that they are the ones who started weaponization of financial instruments themselves. And they have created this spate of countries rushing for bilateral currencies and national currency mechanisms. Nobody wants to undermine the dollar regime, but at the same time, countries have to adopt methodologies to protect themselves. And India has done. UPI with 23 countries, actually, we have signed the agreements. And we should perhaps expect one of the agreements on UPI and the Russian system to be signed this time, because that is what is going to help the Russians also in getting more tourists from India. That's one of the major drawbacks at the moment as far as the tourism is concerned, apart from the trade.
Okay. And Seema Sirohi, would you see America weaponize this further against India in case India were to procure additional regiments of the S-400, go in for the S-500, go in for the Su-57s? Not that it's happening overnight, but will all of this depend on peace between Russia and Ukraine, or India risks additional sanctions?
See, I know there's a lot of excitement around President Putin's visit to India, but I think the government of India would not want the fallout from this visit to affect the US relationship too much. So, because you might notice that while President Trump has gone all out to punish India, the government of India has been extremely careful in what it has said over the last few months. So, what India wants is to maintain a good partnership with the US and ride it out for the next 3 years. Now, if Russia will push for the Su-57s, no doubt. But and the Americans are pushing for their fifth-gen fighters for India to buy. That's a huge decision. And if there is any announcement on the Russian planes during this visit, I think it will not go down well in Washington, that's for sure. But whether they impose, more sanctions, that remains to be seen because, it'll affect other parts of the relationship and other equations, including with Russia. Because Trump is trying to make peace with, on the Ukraine war. So
absolutely.
He's
deployed... so the Quad summit is not happening right now. The Quad summit is not happening, but there's a Quad anti-terror meeting that's happening in Delhi right now. Even as the Russian president is here, the Russian defense minister, health minister, all of them are here. There's also a Quad summit, Quad officials meeting on anti-terrorism also happening. Fred, the last 30 seconds I have on this part of the show, I want to understand from you, what does Russia expect to take back from this summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Putin?
Incredibly important. All the things that people are saying about the messaging of this summit are awfully important to Russia because it is sort of still beleaguered in the line of fire. It is experiencing the biggest wave of sanctions ever leveled against the country. So that's important. But I think Putin seriously wants to cement a new higher level relationship with India with in-depth economic relations. I think you'll see a lot of overtures from the Russians to solve problems like that trade deficit, to make Russia more friendly to Indian workers and business investors. They're very conscious of this. They're very, I think they're eager to get this relationship on a new footing. I think they believe the Ukraine war is going to be ended soon. I think they're right, and that episode will be behind us, and there'll be a whole new world. And Putin really wants to set the groundwork for that.
Okay, so just 9 minutes to go for that India Today World Exclusive coming up, Sandeep. And perhaps more access for Indian pharmaceuticals, healthcare, agricultural products to Russia. That's something that India is also keenly looking at, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And the aim is to diversify beyond the traditional areas that we have is energy and defense. And we're looking at other areas like, as you mentioned, pharmaceuticals. Shipping is another major area of cooperation, Gaurav. The government of India has a vision to become a major shipping power in terms of manufacturing its own ships, and unveiled a very, very big plan. And Russia plans to build its ships in India. There's a lot of collaboration that's on there, especially on the Arctic route, the northern route. There are multiple routes that India and Russia are discussing where they can actually collaborate and all that. So the aim is to get to that 100 billion figure by the end of this decade, Gaurav. And I'm sure they would want to have a more balanced relationship between India and Russia, the trade figures, rather than this hugely skewed trade deficit that's hugely in favor of Russia, and to move away from those traditional areas to go into other new areas like pharma, electronics, automobiles, another very big area.
Yes.
President Putin has praised India's automobile sector repeatedly, and he's spoken about how India has created this huge automobile sector all by itself in the last couple of decades. Those are areas that we can talk about. The fact is that a lot of Indian manufacturers do not have a presence in Russia. Why is that? Those are areas of cooperation that can be worked out. So literally, Gaurav, the sky is the limit. And this is something that we have to see in the next couple of hours. We will know once and for all where the India-Russia relationship
absolutely,
is headed
Sandeep.
in the next couple of years.
Not even the sky. Now, outer space is the limit, given the fact that outer space cooperation is also something that both countries are looking at. So